video here regarding the eighth of Teves. So we have the whole story where Ptolemy called in the great rabbis, and he put them in separate rooms, and he ordered each one of them to translate the Torah into Greek. And this was not something the rabbis planned on doing. This is what they did it at, with that were facing really maybe death or really grave consequences if they wouldn't listen. So they all translated the Torah, and there was a miracle here where they all came up with 13. The Talmud goes into it. I think it's 13 changes in translation that they made in order, because they know that people are going to be reading this and not listening to the teachings of the rabbis. So to not trip people up, they made 13 changes. The Talmud records what those changes were and the reasons for it. One of them took out the verse saying that a rabbit isn't kosher because the Greek word for rabbit was the same word for his wife. And at the end of the day, people have to understand you're living under the Greeks. Part of the commandment of you should live means that you need to make sure that you're not placing yourself in danger. So therefore, it's one of the things they did. But the miracle was that because they hadn't known that they were going to be doing this, they had no plan. There was no cell phones. They weren't on Zoom coordinating this. And each rabbi on his own had this idea to do it, and they all did it. And you would think, well, maybe some would have it, and other ones wouldn't, or maybe they would each correct different ones. All 13 edits were all done, each one separately. Which if there wouldn't be, like, maybe the Ptolemy would be like angry or someone's lying to me, right? And it was a miracle that it all came out to the same 3 translations. But it says, and we know that on that day, it says many bad things about it. It was a dark day, different descriptions of how bad it was. But we know that that they used to fast on that day, well, what's the idea behind their fasting? I'm not sure if people still fast today, but what's the idea behind them fasting on this day? Especially, we know that basically we know that when Moshe got the Torah, it's pretty clear that part of the mission was to also teach it to the Noachides, and possibly I think Moshe also translated the Torah. I don't think we have that translation is extant, but Moshe seemingly translated the Torah into 70 languages. But then nobody showed up. It sounds like the nations would send somebody to see what it's about, but nobody really took it to heart and had But basically, so we see that in translating the Torah is not so bad, and we see if definitely afterwards there were translations made by rabbis. You have Targum Yonasan ben Uziel, you have Targum Onkelos. These were all straight from the Pharisees, from the sages. So why is that translation considered such a bad thing? So there be many reasons offered. I wanted to stick on one point here, is that the translation that Moshe is going to be doing is going to be to teach the nations, right? Part of what Hashem wants us to do. The translation that Onkelos made and Yonasan ben Uziel made is to help all the Jews at this time who are not so literate in Hebrew. It was also a commentary, right? There's a lot of, you could study these targums and see a lot of insights into the Torah that they're coming from the tradition and the oral Torah in the translation. So these were all done for Torah study, to help people understand the Torah, right? To help the Jews who didn't speak, who couldn't really read Hebrew so well, who spoke Aramaic, whatever dialect it was, to help them understand the Torah. The problem with the Septuagint was this was not coming from the rabbis. It's clear that at that time there wasn't a need for it, and they weren't planning on doing it. So what's the real issue here is that the Greeks were very intellectual, and there was a whole library. Ptolemy had this huge library which was famous, and I think we lost it. There was a fire, or maybe it fell into the sea. I don't remember. But basically, it's a famous library, and basically the Greeks were kind of like very intellectual, and they were like amassing all the world's wisdoms and anything valuable, like multiculturalism. Oh wow, this culture, so they have these insights. We're going to add it to our library. So really, from the Greek perspective, they're coming with this like secular, humanistic perspective. Oh, like wow, the Jewish Bible, there's some pretty cool stuff in there. Like for sure, the Torah was so to speak, progressive, which is demeaning to the Torah. But it's true that, like, in the Torah it says if a master kills a slave, he's liable for the death penalty, right? And at those days, like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he's my slave, right? But the Torah is saying this amazing concept where this slave that you have, even a Canaanite slave, so to speak, you can't kill him. You kill him, you're liable for the death penalty. It says that when the after the 10 tribes were exiled, the Assyrians brought in a new nation and they converted, and that's the Samaritans. And basically, they had a really hard time with this concept. Like, it was so counterintuitive at this time to, like, that it's my property. What are you talking about? Like, imagine saying if I kill my horse, I'm liable for the death penalty. Nobody, it's like, sounds ridiculous to say that at the time, right? This concept of the Torah. So there were many ideas in the Torah that sounded very progressive and intellectual to the non-Jewish nations, and so this idea of Ptolemy translating the Torah was all part of this secular humanistic, culture. And what's really going on here is that the Torah, the Holy Torah, is being profaned, right? And it's being adopted it's becoming mundane. It's being treated mundane as like some wisdom of the Jews. Like, you have the wisdom of the Babylonians, you got the wisdom of the Egyptians, the wisdom of the Greeks, you got the wisdom of the Jews, right? It's all part of this multiculturalism that's really profaning the Torah. And it's terrible. And this was really part of the whole Hellenization that impacted the Jews at the time, where they're kind of being attracted to this secularism and multiculturalism, and wow, like, they're complimenting the Jews. Wow, your Torah is so smart, and Jews like feel good. Wow, yeah, it is, and they get sucked in to this secular viewpoint, and that's part of why the Torah it was so bad, is because it really took the Torah and profaned it into a secular. Oh, it has a lot of wisdom. From my perspective, and I think this is the Torah perspective, is that we're not interested in sharing the wisdom of the Torah with the universities. Like, no, this is not. We're not sharing wisdoms. This is the Torah. This is our holy Torah from Hashem. This is not something somebody should be perusing. Because he wants to enjoy reading some smart concepts. Right? Of course, it's true and justice because it's from Hashem. But if you're not going to approach it with the respect and awe that it deserves, we don't want you to have anything to do with it. It's better you don't read it, right? And that's why this translation was forced, because the Jews wouldn't do it. We're not sharing the Torah with these Greeks who want to profane it. And actually, the Sfas Emes says that he says the Hanukkah story is really about the simple Jews. Why? He says that because the Greek culture really affected the simple Jews. It took away their passion for Judaism. Obviously, you have some Hellenists where it's clear that they were violating the Torah, but he's saying that even regular Jews kind of lost some of that passion and became more maybe ritualistic or humanistic or whatever. And the whole Hanukkah story was about, you have the Maccabees, but the Maccabees were joined by many people, and it was about all the regular people kind of reigniting their passion through self-sacrifice. Through self-sacrifice for Hashem, and fighting against the Greeks against tremendous odds, and that's kind of reversing this Hellenistic trend of kind of sucking the Torah and Judaism into like this, rituals, intellectual, really mundane and a concept which was really bad. And that's why it's a fast day. We really need to, even today, we really need to, like, you have this academia and these scholars, atheists and whatever, or studying the Torah. That's really, it's profane. It's really bother everybody that the way these people like touch our holy books. It's really profane. And then obviously, well, you see from like the Septuagint translation that obviously we know that the Septuagint that people think is the Septuagint today is not the ones the rabbis translated. The church, played around with it a lot and added stuff or supplemented it with their own translations. When nobody has the original today, but you could definitely see how this, is very notable that which because we know that the Jews there were other targums made for the Jews. basically by the rabbis, because these just spoke Aramaic. Some of them were made early enough for Christianity, but the Christians always used this one, right? And this one, this is profanity of a Torah. This one was the one that was adopted by Christianity and made and used to establish the wrong, like a heretical religion. It kind of goes to this whole profaning of the Torah and adoption by Greek culture. That's how kind of you could see the beginning of the path down to Christianity, which is all kind of also uh, uh, I'm not an expert about Christianity, but people who are kind of show how it's kind of also building on a lot of in a lot of Greekness, so to speak. And this is why one of the reasons why this day was so bad, because it was really a terrible profaning of the Torah, and really terrible. And this is something we could take today, to really, if someone's studying Torah, right, you want to be dressed properly. You don't study Torah in the bathroom. You don't like chill with your feet up and like you study Torah. It's an awesome activity where the Torah needs to be accorded proper respect, and like someone who's like the sages talk about someone who's studying, like looks up and watches the trees. It's really like you have a Shem's Torah here, and now you're gonna distract yourself. When you're done studying, you can go for a walk in the park. You know what I mean? Like when you're dedicating an hour to Torah study, like that's an hour to Torah study. This is like you don't profane that, and this is with many ways. You don't approach the Torah with a humanistic psychological approach, building on Greek things and not according proper respect. All these different things are all really applicable today as well. So that's really, I think, something to really think about when we think about the 8th of Teves. I think that's all for now.